fan del wrestling, ma soprattutto fan di The Shield of Sports. Io sono Elia, Bruno, Giuliani, e come sempre vi ricordo che questo podcast è disponibile in formato video su YouTube con le grafiche e le statistiche realizzate da Leonardo Ungherini ed è in formato audio disponibile su Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast e TuneIn. And if you didn't understand anything of what I just said, I am Elia, Bruno, Giuliani, and I welcome you to another episode of the Shield of Wrestling podcast. And I remember you that this podcast is available on video format on YouTube with graphics and statistics made by Leonardo Ungherini, and on the audio format on Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, and TuneIn. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest today, who is Session Moth Martina.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. What's cracking?
Everything's fine, everything's nice. I want to address immediately the elephant in the room, and I want to talk about
here we go.
the AEW experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know if you knew if I was going or not. I told
Absolutely
very
not.
few people. Yeah, I only told a very, very close friends that I was going over for it. So I was trying to keep it as much of a surprise as possible. I only found out myself a couple of weeks before anyway. Yeah, it was absolutely, I can't even put it into words. It was amazing. It was a complete dream come true. I cried after my match because I just never ever actually thought you always think oh, how will I ever get there? And you never actually think I'm actually going to get there. So then I tried to take the time when I was in there to really let it sink in, holy shit, I'm actually wrestling in an AEW ring. I've dreamed about this since they came around, It's where I've wanted to go since as soon as AEW kind of popped up. I kind of was that's the place for me, it's something a little bit different. It's mainstream, big WWE, but it's not WWE. And so for me, it was always a place I wanted to go. So I just made it my mission to, I kind of thought after COVID and everything, I'm just sitting at home waiting to go back to Ring of Honor. And then Ring of Honor didn't work out. So I just took the initiative and I was right, if I want them to notice me, I'm going to have to make them notice me. So I went over and I made them notice.
So, what do you think is going to happen now that Ring of Honor is under AEW?
Honestly, I have no idea. And
Okay.
anyone I've spoken to from Ring of Honor has absolutely no idea. There's I was genuinely as shocked as everybody else that I found out on the day I made my debut that Tony was buying Ring of Honor, which was just crazy that he announced it on the same day that I made my debut. But I genuinely hadn't.
You didn't know it before.
I hadn't a clue. No, I didn't. No one did. Yeah, nobody did. So I was as shocked as everybody, and it was just oh, that's just crazy how they both coincided. But I still have no idea what they're planning to do. I don't know anything. I just went to be an extra pretty much for 2 weeks, just to get seen and get noticed and get just seen and hopefully maybe be brought back at some point.
How does that process work? Did you contact someone who was already in and asked to be an extra? What happened there?
I have a Ring of Honor work visa. It's up until the end of the year. So I figured, which when I spoke to Ring of Honor, they were allowing me to use to get work in the States. Obviously they were very supportive and everything about us getting other places after they decided to close. So I got in contact with a few people about just being an extra and coming in, and it all kind of worked out really well. It all worked out in my favor.
Oh, great. So, and for the brief time you went there, what's your opinion on the other female wrestlers there?
It's amazing. I absolutely it's kind of hard coming home now. I was only there for 2 weeks, and it was a real experience of this is where I want to be. You know what I mean? I was as soon as I was there and in the backstage and meeting everybody, because I knew a lot of people that were in AEW before from the indies. So a lot of it was meeting old friends again. And then it was obviously a lot of new people too. But I felt really comfortable there and I got on with everybody really well. So I definitely can see myself, it's only made my passion and my wanting to go there 10 times stronger, because now I'm okay, now I know how things run. Now I know what it's like. This is where I want to be. It kind of reminded me of the first time I went to Ring of Honor, the first few times I went, and I was this place is great. I really see myself fitting in here. So it kind of has given me that spur to be okay, I'm going to keep trying.
Oh, great. That's some good news. Like, you already have some plans going on? You think you're gonna go there again?
Not really. Not much to say on that front, but I'm just waiting to see what happens next.
So after your debut in AEW, 2 weeks later, if I'm not wrong, you went on Scrapper Mania again in the National Stadium after, what, 2 years?
Yeah.
So what was that, like, that experience again after all
Honestly,
those time?
I could, like, from going from 2 years of like COVID and sitting at home and praying and wishing just to wrestle again. I remember like for a good year sitting at home just wishing I could even just go to training again. It's such a harsh contrast when you think about it, because I feel like everything just started. I know wrestling's kind of been back for a few months now, but it never really felt like we were fully back. You know what I mean? Like all the shows just weren't fully back. It wasn't like it was before. There was always a little bit of something different. And then, like, since I went to America, I just felt like everything just started happening so fast, like with AEW and all that. And it just felt so surreal. And then I was there for 2 weeks and I literally flew home the day before Scrapper Mania. I was jet lagged bits. I remember just going to the gym and just coming home and sleeping because I was like, I want to be ready for tomorrow. And I was on such a high from the AEW anyway that I didn't think anything could top it. But then I went out and I had that match and I had that entrance. I just was absolutely floored by it. Like, the support from the Irish fans was just genuinely, you can see it on my face if you watch back on VOD. I'm absolutely in shock that they were so into it and stuff like that. And yeah, I actually didn't think anything could top AEW, but then that Scrapper Mania weekend completely topped it for me, because I was like, things just keep getting better and better, you know. I was unreal. What an experience, because that was the first show for OTT and back home and everything that felt normal again, you know.
Like,
so it was really good.
So how much time was since the last stadium show? Was it like 2?
We were meant to have it. I was actually not. I was going to miss the OTT stadium in March 2020 because I had flown over to Vegas to do Ring of Honor. And I remember when I was on the flight going over to Ring of Honor, by the time I landed in like Atlanta or something, I checked my phone and I saw Ireland was shutting down and the shows had been cancelled and everybody was devastated. And I was like, oh, well, Ring of Honor's still happening. But then by the time I got to Vegas, our shows had cancelled. And that's when the world really had started like to shut down.
March 2020.
So I was going to miss that state. Yeah, I was going to miss that stadium anyway. So it was, I'd say our stadium before that would have been, I wasn't at that one either, actually, when I think about it, because I was in Japan in 2019, October. So I wouldn't have been there since August, maybe 2019 was the last time I was in the National Stadium. But everybody else would have been October 2019, would have been the last time we were all there.
So you mentioned different things like going to America for Ring of Honor and going to Japan and everything. So excluding Ring of Honor, AEW and OTT, like what's another promotion where you think you can really fit in, where you really like the place and everything?
Well, I loved Stardom. I loved Stardom a lot. I've been there for 3 tours. And I had a tag team partner, Natsu Sumire, who was like, we just gelled together so well. She picked up my gimmick. So we were the queens of Kampai, which is like the drunk queens. Yeah. And we used to like come out and dance and drink to the ring. And she was so fucking funny. It was amazing. Like, she was so funny. And so Stardom, I always definitely felt at home because I'd been there 3 times for such a long period of time that I really, really, I've always enjoyed Japan. I would love to go back there as well if I got the chance.
Did you wrestle only in Stardom in Japan? Or did you go to other... Oh, okay.
No, just Stardom. I was brought over for Stardom.
So I want to take a really big step back and go back to your start. Like, what happened at the start of your career and everything? Yeah,
well, I started in 2011, in February 2011, in a school called Main Stage Wrestling, which is pretty much the same school we're in now. It's just changed names over the years. And I remember I just started because I was like bored and I didn't think I could actually be a wrestler. I thought I was actually too fat to be a wrestler. So I kind of did it as a fitness thing. I was like, oh, well, like I like wrestling, so I'll give this a go. It's a way of exercising and stuff. And then I obviously met like a lot of friends and people that liked wrestling as well. So I kind of stuck at it, and I just kind of kept going and kept going. And I was the only girl at the time, so I remember I got on shows a bit faster because they had no women. So I just kind of got hooked straight off the bat. And, you know, I started doing really, really small Irish shows for MSW. And then I started doing like wrestling.ie shows all over Ireland. And I was just wrestling as Kaza G. It was just pretty much me. No character, no gimmick, just your generic baby face. And I did that for about 4 years. And it was a great experience, like learning how to just do kind of kids shows and camp shows all over Ireland. Definitely gave me a lot of experience in front of a crowd and got me comfortable enough to start to be able to put together the session Moth Martina. So then when I went to start doing session Moth, I had the confidence from kind of knowing how to like do the rounds before that, you know?
Yeah. So, and how old were you when you started wrestling?
I don't want to say. 21.
Okay.
20 or 21. My memory's so bad. I don't know. I think I was 21. I was 20.
I was 22 when I started, so...
Yeah, it's crazy. But I'm 31 now, so it's a bit embarrassing.
So, so it's been like a 10-year career now, and I asked Lee the same question. So now Ireland is considered one of the hotbeds in wrestling. What do you think contributed the most to this like rising in the Irish wrestling scene?
Definitely having a platform like OTT with good production. He like Joe Cabray made the effort to bring in UK and like other talents from all over the world to mix with the Irish talent, which I feel definitely helped the Irish talent step up their game. Like the top guys now in Ireland are all that because we've had the chance to wrestle with so many different people from all over the world. So we've only ever learned from that, you know what I mean, as the years have gone on. I think getting to mix a match with some of the best talent in the world is bound to get eyes on the Irish talent. Like I know for me, it was the gimmick that really helped OTT get noticed because we had a lot of characters. Like we had the Wards back in the day. We obviously had the lads from the Flats, the Session Moth, more than hype. It was just, we had really good building. And I feel like the character, you don't see a lot of characters these days in wrestling or in promotions, or a lot of like someone like Be Cool is probably without a doubt the best comedy wrestler in the world, I think. And because there's just no one like him anywhere else. And I've been everywhere else, so I can tell you if there's someone like him and there isn't. You know what I mean? So I think it's having these like original things that stand out. So it's not just like, I mean, sometimes I look at match graphics and I'm like, oh, you could have that show anywhere. It wouldn't matter where it is. You know what I mean? Like it's just two big names thrown together and they wrestle all the time. What I think OTT does is they kind of put together mixed matches, stuff that you won't see everywhere else. So it gets a lot of attention on it. And just really good production, and like it's gotten to a place, the fans sticking by him, always being loud, is probably the biggest thing, because they've created this scene for us to become one of the biggest in the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for them, if we were still only wrestling in front of like 50 people, then we wouldn't be considered one of the best in the world. But the fact that we're able to sell out 2,000 people really helps elevate all of us even more so, you know?
And what is one of your best import matches you ever done with someone outside the Irish wrestling scene?
At OTT?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many. Probably maybe my match against Miko Satomura.
Oh, great!
That was at the stadium, so that was a big one.
But
I've wrestled I've gotten to wrestle people like Mustache Mountain. I wrestled like Chuck Taylor. I've wrestled like Ace Romero the other day and stuff like that. I've wrestled Mark Haskins loads of times. You know what I mean? I've been very, very fortunate to wrestle the best many times, you know?
Is there a different culture between here in Europe and in the States about what do you do in shows? I mean, with gimmicks or things like that, like there's maybe more focus here on something and maybe more focus on the States or in Japan on something else. Like what did you find?
They're like shows are definitely different. There's definitely a different vibe everywhere you go. Like everywhere is not the same, but generally the rule of thumb in wrestling kind of is always the same. Like everyone's kind of playing from the same handbook, you know what I mean? Like the rules and the etiquette and everything like that. Not much is different. It just depends on what show you're on and how the show is built, etc. Like there's just different everywhere, you know what I mean? That's what kind of makes each promotion different, you know?
Yeah. And with these words, I want to go to the break now.
Segui lo sport più di ogni altra cosa. Ti piace parlare subito di quello che vedi. La scrittura è la tua più grande passione. E allora noi facciamo proprio al caso tuo. Il gruppo The Shield of Sports ha riaperto le candidature per le posizioni newser, social, video e podcast. Come fare per collaborare con noi? Ma è molto semplice. Mandaci una mail all'indirizzo info@theshieldofwrestling.com oppure info@theshieldofsports.news. Raccontaci chi sei, che cosa fai, perché vorresti collaborare con noi. Noi leggeremo la tua mail, ti risponderemo subito e chissà che anche te entrerai a far parte del nostro fantastico mondo sportivo. Ma soprattutto ricorda, we are the Shield of Sports.
And we are back with session Moth Martina.
Hello.
So, I want to ask you another question. I know you met Chris Jericho when he was here in England. He was touring with Fozzy, right?
Yeah.
And you should have made like a Talk is Jericho episode.
Yeah.
What was going on there? What happened?
Well, he came to Ireland and he hung out with me and Will Ospreay and Aussie Open, and we just hung out and had some drinks. It was fun. I was meant to go the next day up to see the Fozzy gig in Belfast, but I had car trouble and I was just really hungover from the day before, so I was like, I'm not doing it, I'm not bothered. So hopefully another time in the future when I go to the States or something like that, I'll definitely try and get it in the books, but that weekend I was absolutely wrecked, so I couldn't do it.
So did you have the time to talk to him like in a more serious way, or was it just like a party way?
We talked loads, yeah, of course. Like he was aware of my character and he's very like encouraging and so on. He thinks like obviously it's great to have a gimmick and so like that. He keeps an eye on like indie scenes all over the world. Like he keeps an eye on the UK and Ireland. So he knew that Ospreay was going to be in Dublin. He knew that we had a show, and he had a day off in Dublin, so he asked to hang out. I'd met him before a few years previously, so it was great to the fact that like, you know, he's coming to Ireland and he thinks, oh well, I'm mates with her, I'll hang out with her and Ospreay. I was honoured. I was like, oh my god, why am I hanging out with these people? Like, am I enough of a name to be considered to be hanging out with these people? But yeah, it was great. I got to tell him all about my gimmick, and he encouraged me to like take the leap and go over to the States and so on, and try get seen. You know, he was very supportive when I was there. He said I did a great job and keep in touch and so on. So yeah, it'll be good.
That's a really good news.
Yeah, it's cool.
I didn't know he was so attentive on the indie scene.
Yeah, like he kind of has he had a clue about everything that was going on and stuff like that. He's a really nice guy, you know.
Great. So you wrestled in a lot of different promotions, and what would be your advice for people who are up and coming and wants to get their name outside of their own promotion, of their own state or whatever?
I'd recommend to try do something different. I was only talking to Jonathan Gresham about this the other day at a show. Like, a lot of people just kind of go out there and they kind of copy what they see on TV and they emulate other wrestlers. And I just find that no one really sticks out when they just go out in the ring and do the same like generic wrestler pose, and you know, they circle the same way, they lock up the same way, they sell the same way. To me, I think, like, I don't know how many veteran wrestlers told me over the years, the wrestling means jack shit, and it's so true. Like, we can all, as long as you can like push yourself to have a match and have a decent match and you can do everything safe and it looks good, that's great. But it's about how you build your matches, and it's about how you like carry your matches and so on, you know what I mean? And you have to have something different, or else For me, it's always been hard because Ireland is so small and there's not many promotions in Ireland. So for me to wrestle regularly and full time, I had to have something that would make me stand out to be brought over to the UK where I could wrestle full time. You know what I mean? And like it's a lot cheaper for promotions to get just a local indie wrestler to come to their show rather than get a flight and a hotel for me. So I have to think, okay, well, I want to do this. So what can I do to stand out and be worth the money to bring me over? You know what I mean? So that's where I have the gimmick. You know what I mean? You're not going to get like if you book Session Moth Martina, you're going to get a Session Moth Martina match. You're not going to just get the indie wrestler down the road match. So you want to be that person that has something completely different to offer and not something that you just kind of ripped off somebody else. You can rip off bits, but try and add your like there's being inspired by people, but then try and make it your own. That's what I would always say. Like, so as soon as you come out the curtain, you want to have something that, like when I did shows before, when I do kids shows, let's say even, and you know, they're not wrestling fans in the audience, they're just casual fans and just going with their family. The chances are they're not going to remember the majority of the wrestlers' names, you know what I mean, as they wrestle, because they're not interested in it, they don't follow.
Yeah.
So you want to have something that makes them remember you. If they come back again, be like, oh, I remember that person. So I think that for me, it was like, oh, the Session Moth, the one that comes out and dances and drinks beer. That was always a memorable thing for people. So like people always even like the name Session Moth, so they kind of laughed at that and they were like, oh, she's gas, she's a bit mad, I like she's just drinking cans, that's gas. So they ended up becoming a fan, just not even based on my wrestling, just based on my persona. So that would be my advice, is try and not necessarily have a gimmick, but just have something that makes you stand out as different,
something that sticks out of the crowd. Especially to non-wrestling fans, because like in an audience, like there's probably, I'd say maybe 40 to 50% are wrestling fans. The other 50% are probably just casual fans that are just going for the night out. You want to have something that's going to entertain them. Yeah.
Because they don't care about the flips and the internationals and, you know what I mean, all these like spots that wrestlers do. Like I feel like wrestlers just wrestle for other wrestlers almost sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that you want to wrestle for the fans and the casual fans and the ones that maybe aren't as interested in that. You can have a mix of both. Like you can do your cool spot, but then have something for the casual fans too, you know?
Because in the 2000 people National Stadium crowd, there's not gonna be only hardcore wrestling fans.
Exactly. They're not all gonna know like, oh my god, that's like so and so's finisher or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, or oh, I saw that spot in Dynamite the other night. Like, you know, they're just like, oh cool, that was a cool flip, you know what I mean? Or they want to be entertained. They want like, people kind of forget like wrestling needs that showmanship. That's why I like OTT so much. It's kind of one place that has, with someone like Be Cool on it, it has that flavor. A lot of places kind of just put on matches and they kind of forget about the comedy show aspect. Especially lately, I noticed that there's not much showmanship in wrestling anymore, and I think there should be more of it.
So, do you have any plans of coming to wrestle in Italy?
I would absolutely love to wrestle in Italy. It's actually been, I've never wrestled there. I've wrestled nearly everywhere around it, but I've never wrestled in Italy, and Italy has actually always been like my favorite European country. I went there when I was like 18 on a holiday to like Rome and Venice, and I just love Italy. And
you're not saying this just because there's Italian listening to you, right?
No, because I studied. I was really bad at it now, and I don't remember any of it now. But I studied Italian in school as well. That was my language. So I always loved Italy, and I remember just Rome. I went to Rome and Paris in a week, and I remember like Paris was crap after, because I was like, Italy's amazing, I love it. So that's one place I would love to go and wrestle.
Yeah, if you say that Paris is crap in Italy, you would get a much sympathy, like a lot of sympathy.
Yeah.
Telling you right now.
I remember I went to Disneyland after. I was like, okay, Disneyland's great, but Italy was just fantastic. It was just a different world. I loved it.
Okay, so Italian promoters, like you listen to
Get on it.
Get on
yeah,
it. Like,
please.
massive.
Bring me over. I want to try some Italian beer.
So let's switch to something completely different now to end the episode. I want to ask you two things, and the first thing is more personal for you, and it's, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh man, that's hard. in a dream scenario, in what I hope would happen, I would love to be living in America, wrestling on live TV weekly and doing pay-per-views, ideally with AEW. That's what I would love. Hopefully, you know, I'm trying my hardest to make that happen, but there's no guarantees in life. Other than that, I really just hope like I'm still wrestling, and I mean, the fact that I've kept it up this long, through a pandemic and everything, and I didn't give up and I didn't stick it out, especially being in my 30s now, you kind of think, sometimes you get a bit worried, like, oh, am I too old for it now? But you're not. Like, that's what I always tell people. Like, there's people I know wrestling in their 40s, and they're women as well, so more power to them. So yeah, for me, it would be, if I can keep it going as long as possible, that's what I would like.
And the second thing is, you said there's not many women wrestling around. Do you have anything you would like to say to someone who could listen to this podcast, some girl that want to start wrestling, like some suggestions or something?
The thing is, like, it's like, I feel like if any girls are into wrestling and they feel and they want to take it up, I would always encourage them. It's like, that's the thing, if they have the passion for wrestling, that's the thing that I think is missing for a lot of people. Like, you need to have the passion for wrestling, you need to love it, or else it could get the better of you, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But if you have a generic, like a really, really genuine love for wrestling, you can stick at it and you'll get it, you know what I mean? I think it was really hard for me when I first started. I couldn't get it at all, but eventually, like, I loved wrestling so much that eventually it just started to click. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of ups and downs, but for me personally, I've always found it really, really worth it. And I would always encourage as many women as possible, because it's such a magical feeling to go out there and do that. You know, it's so much fun. You make so many friends through it, and yeah, it's a great thing. It's just, it can be hard. So you have to kind of have a bit of an iron will to stick through it. But if you do stick through it, it's definitely worth it, you know?
Okay. Well, then that's all for now. That's all for today.
Okay.
It was a really nice chat.
Thank you.
Thank you for...
I really enjoyed that. And get me booked in Italy, okay?
Yeah, listen to her.
Yeah. Woo! We can party in Italy. You.
So goodbye, everyone. And remember that we are the Shield of Wrestling.